Hello, my name's Kurt, and in this video is the second part of this video series on how to create a database using app scripts and Google Sheets. This part here will be concentrating on the add button, whereby when you hit the add, any input that was put in here will be automatically added to the database, and then after you hit the add, all these fields here are cleared. So with that, let's get going on how to create the scripts needed to do this add button section of this video series. Okay, so we have our UI already completed and everything, and we named it whatever file we want to name it. Now we're going to go ahead and create the script needed to do the add, to add customer information into this tab. So to do that, we need to go up to extensions and select app scripts. So you're presented with this screen here. This is the default function, and we can change that or we can delete it, whatever you want to do. So we're going to go ahead and change the name, and we're going to call it, just to confuse everybody even more, submit data, which we're going to append to the add button. So we'll call it submit data, but we actually call the button add. So we did that. We can name our project. I'll just name it invoice and select rename. So now what we need to do is we need to create a function or a script that will take the data from here and put it into the database along these columns. So the first thing is we need to define some variables. First one is the workbook. We can use the term workbook because workbook to me encompasses all the individual sheets or tabs. So when I say workbook, I'm meaning everything in this file name called invoice, which includes all these tabs or sheets. All right, so we need to define some variables here. First variable we're going to define is the workbook, the whole workbook. And that's done by creating a constant, all right, equals the name of the workbook. It could be any name you want. So we're going to call it WB equals what? The active workbook that we're working in, which will be called spread, right? Dot, but we have to get it, right? So we have to type GE. We want to get active spreadsheet. So from here, click on that, since it's a function, and we hit semicolon. And then we hit enter. Let's see if we can increase this. All right, that's better. See here? We have something wrong here. Now that's better. Go to the next line here. Now what I like to do next is I like to define each and individual sheet or tab here in my function. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to do a constant, all right, the name of one of the tabs. So we're just going to call it input form. Let's capitalize that. And it's going to equal what? Well, the sheet or the workbook that we're working in, which is defined here with WB. And then we want to get sheet by name. So we're going to type in get. And then let's see what happens with that. And here we have sheet by name. And what do we have to do? Well, we have to tell what tab to assign to the input form. So we do open parentheses, hit the quotes, and we type in input, which is going to be our first tab in the workbook. And then we're going to do one for database, invoice, output, and data. So we're going to go ahead and do it the easy way. Hit that and type that. Don't forget to comment. So now we have all our constant variables that we're going to use. Workbook for the whole entire workbook, and then the individual tabs or sheets in that workbook WB. So next, we have to grab whatever user input is put here. We need to grab all that and store it somewhere. So we're going to do that by putting it into an array. Now we're going to use let, and then you can name it anything you want. In my case, I can call values, and then I'm going to hit equal. And then we have this. All right. Now we have to do a list. So now we have to do a list of values or variables that we're going to put into values. So we need to get it. We need to get it from a cell and then grab that value. So we need to get it from a cell. But what cell we need to get it from? We need to get it from sheet input, from cell E11, and we need to get all these cells all the way down to E22, 23. All right, so we need to get those values from where? Input, an input sheet. So then we have to transpose that into AppScript code. So how we do that? Said before, we need to get the value. So we're going to get it from where? Input form, which we defined up here. And notice how these change colors. Right now, this is gray. This was gray, right? So we back this up. See, it goes back to gray. Yeah, see, it goes back to gray. And then we type it in. And then we get, now one to black. Dot what? Well, we need to get it from input form, but from where in that input sheet? Well, from a range, so from cell. So we need to get it from a cell, and then AppScript is called a range, right? And then what range is that going to be? We open it up. Again, this is the function, if you want to say. And it's going to be E11. So now we have that, right? And then we have to put a comma here. Put a comma. Yes, I'm having problems trying to find the comma. So give me a few seconds. But now we have to get how many more? We have to get 11 more cells. So we got to do, we have to do it again. But I missed a step here, right? So we want to get value, right? So we want to get the value. So we know we're getting it from cell E11 from the input form, but now we need a way to bring it in to our variable values, and we have to do get values. Now, see here, get value and get values. Get value will be just used, I'm just going to get one item, but we're going to get multiple items and stick it into the array values. So we need to get values there. And then we hit the magic parentheses. Again, this is acting like a function. And then we hit the comma, and then we go to our next one. Now up here, let's go ahead and save it real quick. Now, if we want to, we can try to run this, and let's see if we see any errors. Probably get some come up here. Now here, since I never ran this in this particular username, it's going to ask you to review the permissions. So we're going to hit review permissions. Then we're going to select our username that we want to allow to run this script. And then we're going to hit advance. And then we're going to go to invoice. And then we're going to read that and hit continue. And now we got it, right? Well, it didn't do anything because we have nothing. That seemed to be working okay. Now we got to do a couple more of these. So we'll speed it up a little bit. All right. Let's neaten this up. I don't know if you can hear that, but we got a disgruntled person downstairs. So now what we're going to do, we're going to type logger. So I'm having another senior moment, and you'll see what it is shortly. Values. And we're going to see if it dumps it down on the screen here. So here you can see that we're going to grab everything from these fields. Okay? Everything from these fields. Or cells. Cells. So all of this stuff here. And we're going to stick them in this called values. This is already called values. And then we're going to see if we can output it. What we see we get down below here. All right. So we have to hit the magic save button. And we're going to hit run. And then we have an error. Input form is not defined. Wonder what it could be. Leave a comment down below. Why do we get that error? Because we have a list of values that we need to double quote out. As you can see here, there was that there before. Now we're going to hit run again, and let's just see what happens if we get any errors. Again, what can it be? I still didn't figure it out. Well, we'll see if I figured it out. Line 10. All right, so we see the problem here. Form. Another one to go. Let's see how long it takes me to figure this one out. 22. There's nothing in there, so that's why that failed. So let's go back to this. Let's just put in a name. All right. Nothing's working here because we didn't add it. Let's go back to our that. And let's see what happens now. There you have it. That seems to be working now. Got to hit enter. That's why the value didn't show up. So now we know we're grabbing our stuff here. We put a couple things in here. Let's sure hit enter. And let's run it again. And it's populating. Okay, cool. So now we can grab our data entry, right? So we grab it. We have it. Now we need to do something with it. Well, what do we need to do? Well, next is we have to take the information that we got from these fields or cells and stick it in this sheet called database. How do we do that? Well, we're going to go ahead and comment our code. That's what we're going to do next. We're going to comment our code. So how we're going to do that? Well, first thing is we need to figure out where to stick it in the database sheet. And that can be done as follows. So when we get a new entry and we want to add it to here, we need to tell Sheets where to stick that information. So we have to tell it what row to start on and what column to start on. In this case here, we're going to have row 4 here and column D. Notice Doesn't say anything about date and invoice. We're not going to do that yet because we're going to do that automatically a little bit later on. I'll show you how to auto a date and then auto increment an invoice number. So we want to start our data here and on this row. 1, 2, 3. So we got row 4 and column 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So we need to stick it here, 4, 4, right? Okay. So you're unsure how these numbers work. Here's a simple way to do something. We'll go back to our app scripts and we want to get the row. Get the last row. And there's a function for that, believe it or not. So now we're going to create another variable, but it's not going to be a constant. It's going to be a variable. So we're going to use let, and I'm going to call it next row equals what? Well, there's a function called get last row, but get last row what? The database tab, which is defined with DB. So DB, now see, look, black dot get, let's do an L. There it is, last row. And now let's change the logger here. And let's just put in next row. And let's save it. See what happens here. So last row is 3. So let's double check it. It's this one. 1, 2, 3. It's the data row, or the row starting with date. But we want to get this one here. We want to get the next row below that that has no data in it. So how do we do that? So we'll go back to our app scripts. Close this. So we need to add one. So we want to get the last row, but that last row is going to have information in it. So we need to get the one below it, which hopefully will be empty. So we're just going to go next to that, hit the space, hit plus, put 1. We're done. Save, run. And now we have the last row. Let's go back to our data. So now we know we need row 4, column 4. So we need to start at column 4. We need to start at row 4, column 4. So we have a row. It's called next row. We know that's a value of 4 in this example. So now we want to stick all this information that's in here and dump it in row 4, starting at column 4. And how's that done? Well, again, we hit the enter key. And then we ask ourselves, where do we want to stick it? Well, the database tab. So we type db dot. But now what? Well, again, we want to stick it in a range of cells. So we hit get, hit the magic R, click on range, and then we hit the parentheses. Once we open up parentheses, we get a help screen. So here, what does it say first? Well, row is an integer. Well, we know our row is stored in this value next row. So instead of putting a number there, we're going to put the variable in there next row. And now we have it. Now we're going to hit comma. Is that a comma? Nope. Comma. And we do a space. So what's the next one? Column. But it's an integer. And this one here, we're always going to start in what? Column 4. So we don't need a variable. It's not dynamic. It's always going to be column 4 we're going to start on. Always. So we're going to do 4. And we hit the comma again, hit the magic space button. Now next is going to access the number of rows. Well, how many rows are we putting in? Well, just one row, right? We're not putting any information in row 5 when we hit the add button. No, we're going to keep it all in row 4, which is going to be one row. We're only going to add information to one row. So hit 1. Then we hit the magic comma key again. Hit the space button. Next one here says number of columns. Well, how much data are we filling in? Well, let's see. We're starting on row 4. We're going to fill all this in, but not the subtotal, tax, or that. Well, how many is that? Well, Let's go back to our app scripts. And we see we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So we're going to fill in 12 columns. 12 columns on one row. So we type in 12. And then we're done. Semicolon. We hit save. Let's go back to input. Put a name in. Let's put in 1, 2, 3. Well, in the last video, we didn't format this too well. We just put colors in and that's it. So let's go ahead and format this now. We're going to highlight that. We're going to go up to here and we're going to do everything in the center. All right, that's fine. Now we know this is cost, right? Cost or dollar amount. So we'll go click on that. Let's go to formats, numbers, and let's hit currency. And now we have it. So now we have this. Now, of course, the add button's still not working. All right, still not working. But it doesn't matter. We can go here. We saved it. Let's run it and see if we get any errors. No. So we went to row 4. So you started at 4, which we wanted to do. Let's go to invoice, hit the magic tab, and nothing was put there. I don't know. We're going to investigate. Can you guess why? Can you guess why? Well, that's because we need to set the value somewhere. So we got the values, right? Now we need to set the values. Now, we're not setting a value, we're setting multiple values. So we need to make it plural. So we do set values. But what are we setting values from? Where are we getting these values from? Well, from values here. Now, watch when we type that in, it will turn black. So now we have it, right? So we get values from this range, stored in here. Now we need to add them into the database tab. We need to find a blank row. That's done by get last row, which will have the last row data that has data in it. But we need the blank row, the next blank row. So we add 1 to the last row number, which was 3. Add 1, we hit get 4. But then we need to set the row with data. How we do that? Again, through a range of cells where next row, starting where column 4, how many rows we're going to input? 1. How many columns we're going to input data in? 12. Then we need to set it. So we set values from where? Values. And then we stick it in the database tab. Let's hit save. And let's hit run. All right. Let's take a look. Gee willikers, Batman. It actually worked. But we still don't have our date, and we still don't have our invoice. And, well, none of this data here is clear. So if I go back again, hit run again, see it incremented 1. Go back to database, and then we have a dupe. So you see that? It found that row 4 had data in it. So it added 1. It was game to row 5. And it still put it in column 4 and 12 cells to the right, including column 4. But now we have to clean our input clean our input when we're done, right? We're going to clean our input. Now, another thing here, you can, fancy up these roads here. Say this is $, so we can highlight that and go format, numbers, and currency, right? Now let's see if it automatically does that. So we go back to our input form and let's go back to that and run again. It should be 6. Go back there and go to database, and there it automatically did it. So that's good for now. We can clean that all up later. Don't worry about being perfectionist. Code. Come back and clean up later. Come back and then do your input variable validation tests. Clean it up, whatever. But just get your code working first, and then go back in, input validation, clean the code, and you'll be good to run. So next is we want to clean these variables away. After each time we hit the add button. Once we're done, hit add, clean, add. Come back and you see this is all deleted. That's what we want to do. So for that, go here, get rid of this. Hit a new line, and then we want to clear this range again. We want to clear this, right? So let's create a new variable. Let, and we're going to go ranges to clear equals all these. So that means we have to do a lot of typing. So we're going to go open and close brackets. We're going to do single quote E11, comma, single quote E12, comma, and we do that all the way up to 23 because we combined E22 and E23 in the last video. So we'll be right back and I'll do that for you. I'm going to go ahead and just do it offline, and then we'll go ahead and come back. All right, so now that's done. But now we want to clear. We want to clear the input form from where? From a range of cells. And where's that range of cells information located? In this variable. All these are located in there. So let's hit the enter button. And let's go ahead and do what? We need to clear arrange cells in input form. Input form dot. Now again, app script, it's got functions. So we're going to get range. And then we need to get range. All right? We need to get a range. So we're going to hit parentheses. And then we want to clear what? This case here is going to be just basically individual cells. So we're going to use our variable ranges right there. All right, but since this is a variable, we need to iterate through it. All right. Dot clear. Dot clear content. Again, function. But remember what I said, we have to iterate through all these. So how are we going to do that? How do we iterate through an array? So we're going to hit the tab key, go back up there, hit enter. We're going to use a for loop. So we're typing for, space, parentheses. Let's scroll this up here. So what we need to do, we need to go through this loop, starting where? At 0. And we need to end where? Here, the length of the array, which is actually 12. So we have 12. We had to iterate this 12 times, but array always starts at 0. So we're going to go 0 to 11. So we need a variable to start with. All right, we're starting where? Where are we starting? An array. 0. We're starting at position 0. So I equals 0. Semicolon, space. All right. So we're going to iterate the array until what? Until the end of the array, which is going to be I less than the length of the array, which is 12. So we do I less than ranges, and there again, the AppScript gives us a great function called length, semicolon. So now we have that, but now we need to add I. We need to add some to I so it can count from 0, 1, 2, 3. We do that by doing I plus plus. Now we have to block our code. It's done that. We had to delete that one. All right. I'm going to go down here, go back, and we close it. And we can see that this matches that. And this matches that. Now we hit save. This for its and giggles. So we have, what do we have here? We have that. So let's go ahead now, add this to our add button. So we're going to highlight it, and we see these 3 dots here. We click on that. First, let's remember it's called submit data. Remember that, submit data. Click on the 3 dots, assign script, submit data, hit OK. Now, this should work. So let's hit the add button. Whoa, that worked. And now we have another one. Look at that. There you go. But we still have some stuff to do. We have to do this. So we will show you this in the next part of this video series where we're going to show you, or I'm going to explain how to auto add a date, auto add your inventory number, and fill out the invoice when you hit the magic add button here. So with that, hope everyone has a happy and healthy day. We will see you on the next video.